Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 5 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
It's good to have you here. I'm Whitney Ward. A suspected shoplifter was shot and killed by Spokane police at the North Spokane Walmart over the weekend.
Tonight we have learned that the Walmart hired SPD for extra patrols to prevent shoplifting at the store. SPD tells us companies can request police and other law enforcement agencies to provide policing services for them. Right now, we are trying to get more information about how this all unfolded, leading to the person being shot and killed. But because this is a police shooting, details are limited right now. The investigation is now being handled by a special investigations unit. According to SPD, at around 9:30 yesterday morning, one of their officers requested backup for a shoplifter prevention. Another officer arrived and they approached the person who was eventually shot and killed.
Now, before the shooting, SPD says a prolonged physical confrontation took place when the suspect was approached about shoplifting. At around 10:20, that's when the gun was fired.
Responding officers also located what they believe were our tasers that appeared as if they had been deployed at some point.
At this point, we do not have a name for the person who was killed. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office has now taken over the investigation.
KREM 2 is working to learn more about exactly what happened and what led up to this shooting. And now to a developing story in Southwest Washington.
5 people are dead after an apparent murder-suicide in Clark County. The Clark County Sheriff's Office says 4 of those people were murdered before the suspect turned the gun on themselves.
After receiving a tip earlier in the afternoon, Clark County Sheriff's Office and a SWAT team checked the home with a drone. They said that's when they found 5 adults dead inside.
It tends to kind of shock the conscience, I think, when a murder-suicide like this happens, or like any murder-suicide happens, but especially when it involves 5 people. I can't remember anything like this.
Officers say they still don't know exactly how everyone is related. The case is still under investigation.
All right, taking a break from the headlines to talk weather. Heavy rain has returned to the inland Northwest, prompting flood watches to be issued.
So for what we need to know right now, let's head over to our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo.
Well, when it comes to our flood watches, they are very interesting. For some areas, it's minor flooding. For some, it's a little bit more involved. When it comes to our overall weather pattern, it is going to be warm enough to melt snow. And look at downtown Coeur d'Alene, where snow was piled up just yesterday. It is gone. That is going to play a big role in kind of mitigating some of that flood threat in the coming days. That's the snow melting already. We do have widespread flood watches, as Mark and Whitney mentioned. A lot of those over on the west side, and some flood warnings now popping up along the crest of the Cascades. That's where we are seeing a bulk of our moisture. Here in the inland Northwest, most of ours is going to kind of be up in Stevens and Boundary County, and then as you make your way over into Bonner County, that's where we're going to get a bulk of it. Now, that's because of heavy rain in those areas. Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, along I-90, maybe even Shoshone County, a little bit less because of the overall nature of how this moisture moves in. It is an atmospheric river. That means a bulk of our moisture does stay over on the west side and in the Cascades. For us, it's going to be lighter, but it's a steady rain the next couple of days that just persists long enough to give us some of that flood concern. It will be a little heavier in the mountains. We'll squeeze out more moisture up there, and the mountain runoff is what plays a bigger role in that flooding. Notice most of the moisture kind of tomorrow morning, and then it's on and off Wednesday, Thursday before we cool Friday.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. A mysterious illness infecting dogs across the country is now here in Washington. The state's Department of Agriculture confirms 2 dogs are recovering from this unknown illness.
As KREM 2 Shannon Mowdy found out, there are many more suspected cases too. Shannon?
We now know there are at least 14 other suspected cases of this unknown respiratory illness in Washington, including 3 in Spokane County. Late last month, KREM 2 News first told you about suspected cases of this unknown respiratory illness sickening dogs at Spokanimal.
I just want to cry. I know. It's been very difficult.
At the time, there were no confirmed cases of the mystery illness in Washington state. Now, vets with Washington's Department of Agriculture say there are 2 known cases in Snohomish and Clark counties, with 16 total reports.
We're still receiving information on the other 14.
Dr. Minden Buswell says 3 of those reports come from Spokane County, though she can't be specific about where.
We have 3 reports, none of which at this point are considered cases, just because they've either had comorbidities that predispose them to having a more atypical scenario, or we haven't gotten all the information on them yet.
It's still not known what causes this disease in dogs, whether it's a new virus or a much stronger variant of an existing illness like kennel cough. What vets are seeing is dogs that may get sick fast or have lasting symptoms.
Pneumonias that are lasting longer, tracheobronchitises that are lasting, 6 to 8 weeks.
Those 24 reports, including Spokane counties, are being investigated by the state.
We want to make sure that they have a respiratory diagnostic panel done to make sure that they're negative for the normal things that we see.
Dr. Buswell says luckily most dogs recover and the disease is rarely fatal, especially in otherwise healthy dogs. Monday, Spokanimal opened up adoptions again, reporting all shelter dogs are healthy. You can protect your pet by keeping them fully vaccinated, which can prevent serious illness this time of year anyway.
Do a risk assessment, understand your animal's health.
If your pet is immunocompromised or very young or older, it's suggested you keep them away from other dogs right now. Washington's Department of Agriculture says experts haven't found this illness can be passed to humans. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
All right, Shannon, thank you very much. A 9-year-old from Othello was killed in a crash in southern Grant County after a family's car slid off of an icy road. According to the Grant County Sheriff's Office, 3 other people were in the car. However, the child was the only one who died. Deputies say the vehicle hit a patch of ice just north of Road 12 Southeast. When the driver lost control, the vehicle then rolled and the child was ejected. The other victims were taken to a nearby hospital but are expected to recover.
2 Narcan vending machines have been installed in North Idaho. According to our news partners, the Coeur d'Alene Press, the life-saving medication will be available at the pantry at the St. Vincent de Paul in Coeur d'Alene and at the Shoshone County Fire District 2 in Kellogg. The Panhandle Health District is providing the machines to fight drug overdoses in the region. According to the Idaho Harm Reduction Project, since Narcan's inception, there has been a 46% reduction in opioid overdose rates in the state. The medication blocks opiate receptors and it can reverse an overdose and keep the person alive until first responders arrive.